Hey guys, Coronavirus with George here. What I want to talk about tonight is the flattening of the curve. People talk about this all the time, and so I thought we'd take a look at it. So this is not the curve, just so you know. Well, it sort of is, and it sort of isn't. So what I did is I took the number of cases here and I put them all in one column. On my other sheet I have some on the left side and the later ones on the right side next to my predictions. But here I just lined them all up. And then I made a simple XY plot, right? And the x-axis here is just days, and it kind of assumes, you start with 1 and go up, right? So if you don't have a column, I could have put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be kind of pointless. So that's, the x-axis. And then y is the number of coronavirus cases. Now, you look, and it looks like it doesn't do anything, and then it skyrockets, right? And every exponential curve looks like this. And if you cut it off here and zoom in, then it would look like it does nothing, and then the skyrockets there, because you would just, this number 100,000 be at the top. And whatever section of this graph you pick to look at starting from the beginning, it always looks the same when you take out the ending, because you simply take the whatever your highest number is and bring that up to the top. And I'll try to show you sometime. And my reason I'm bringing this up is because every exponential curve, because it looks like this, it looks like there's nothing here, and then it looks like it skyrockets at the end, it's not very useful, right? Because the reason we use graphs is to see data quickly, right? And if you have to sit there and dig into the individual numbers, oh look, 2157 here, and then the day before was 1625 or whatever, if you have to sit there and look at the individual data, then you might as well just look at a table. So there's another type of graph you can use called a logarithmic graph, which is good for something that increases exponentially, because it sort of cancels out the exponent, so you can kind of see better what's happening. Now, it can fool you, right, because something that looks like very little could be a very lot, so you have to know you're looking at a logarithmic graph. But let me show you what that looks like. So we go down here, and we go to, I'm going to look like a fool here. You got to click on the y-axis, because that's the part that we care about. The y is what has the information that we're trying to look at. And we want to go logarithmic scale. And then it looks very different, right? And it sort of looks almost linear, but you notice here, not so much, right? Here the slope's a little lower. It's almost starting to flatten. And that's the point, right? And this is the curve that they're talking about flattening. And it's not completely flat yet, but it almost looks like it's getting to be flat, right? And so that's kind of where we're getting with this. And what it would look like if it's flat is basically you would see kind of the same number increase, not percent, but the same number increase every day, which means percent-wise it would get smaller and smaller. And that's what a logarithmic graph shows you. So if we had 20,000 new cases every day, but it stayed at 20,000, that would start to look like a straight line. And you can see anyway, we're at 468, that's the last data point here. But because it's logarithmic, 434 and 468 are not that far, one's not above it. I can't talk. 468 is not that much higher than 434,000, because, this inch here is between 100,000 and a million. Whereas this inch is between 10,000 and 100,000, because it's logarithmic, right? It's increasing by a factor of 10 each time. Let's take a look at this one here. So this is number of deaths in the U.S. You again see exponential. I didn't start on day 1. I skipped the first few days because I didn't feel like plugging all the data in, but I started on the day when we had 15 deaths total. So you can go back and plug in the extra days. The graph won't look very much different. It'll just be like a longer flat line at the bottom here. Anyway, let's turn this into a logarithmic one. I haven't looked at this one yet, actually. I'll be curious to see how this looks on logarithmic scale. And here again, now that makes it look linear, right? Because the logarithmic cancels out the exponential increase. But not really flattening, no. Leveling off more so than before, probably. But you don't see that much change, right? So this is the thing we hope to see, kind of straight line and then come down. So those are the curves that they're talking about that you see on TV, the logarithmic curve, not the normal, the regular kind that I showed you at the beginning is just a normal XY plot that you would have learned about in math class. but if you take the log of the y-axis, then you'll end up with this type of curve. Or if you just make it so that, well, it does it for you. Let me not get into that. Basically what you do is you a tenfold increase is one certain size, and then another tenfold increase is a certain size, and that's actually how you make the graph, not the way I said the first time, but it gets you the same shape either way. Okay, so that's it for the curve and all that. So let's go back and look at numbers. Last night's number, 468,556, was only a 7.7% increase, which was the smallest increase we've had in the U.S. numbers, American numbers, in cases of coronavirus or COVID-19. So that's good. The number's coming down. I mean, obviously, 0 new cases would be best, but at least this is the smallest number we've seen since I've started keeping them. Here's the rest of them over here, right? But most of them, here's the number, and here's the percentage, which is slowly going down. In fact, if you go back to March 28th, they've all been under 20%, and actually after March 31st, so since April started, they've all been under 15%. Now we're in single digits, so that's good. Number of deaths in the U.S., similar but delayed number, right? So we see higher numbers up here, and then 28, 25, it bounces up and down, right? But ever since about this number, so that's April 2nd, so since April 3rd, we've only had one day above 15%. So this is the increase, right? So the number of deaths compared to what the total was the day before, how much that number increased day over day. So 14.9. So at least we're staying, we see the percentage coming down. Not as much as the cases of coronavirus, but we do expect this number to happen first and this number to happen second, because obviously you get infected first, then you get tested and show up on this list, and then after that, right, it takes time for you to either recover or die. And so there's a delay between the first and the second charts. Okay, we hit some milestones today. 100,000 deaths worldwide. That was today. And the number of total cases actually increased by 93. We may hit 100,000 new cases before the night's over. We'll see. The other major milestone for the United States, we hit 500,000 cases today. And remember, this is an exponential increase, so we're only one doubling, if that's a verb, away from 1 million, right? So it only has to double one more time to get to 1 million cases. So I still think 1 million cases is very likely soon. Even at 7% increase, we're looking at 10 days. So April 20th, maybe, give or take. Depends on if it stays steady at 7%, then that would be the day. So I'd say that'd be the over-under day, let's say, is April 20th for when we hit 1 million cases. Death toll is 18,000. That'll be to over 20,000 tomorrow. And I heard the experts saying they predicted maybe in the 60s total by like late summer. For me, I find that hard to believe. Like I said, 15% increase, or 14.9 is where we're at. And, this number will be 18. This number will be over 20,000, right, for April. That'll be April 11th, tomorrow, right? And so then we're looking at every 5 days doubling if we continue at the current rate. So April 16th, maybe we would hit 40,000. And then April 21st, we would see 80,000. And then April 26th, 160. Obviously, we're hoping those numbers would come down, and they are, but I think we hit 100,000 deaths this month in the U.S. I still think that's likely. I'm not an expert, and the experts say it'll be lower. I hope they're right. I hope I'm wrong. But based on my projections, I still feel like we're easily going to make it to 100,000. and if you understand that, something doubles and then it doubles in the same amount of time and then it doubles in the same amount of time, it's the last time it doubles where it's the biggest, right? So it seems like we're at, 18,600, like that's not that close to 100,000, but it's actually not that far because, 20,000 doubles to 40, 40,000 doubles to 80. You don't have to double, we only have to double about 2.5 times to get there. So that's my prediction for that. Britain putting in a strong showing here. They have 8,000 new cases. They're going to pass the imaginary China number that I think most people are starting to feel like this is probably BS. But anyway, it's still on here, so we're still going to use it as the benchmark. So Britain will probably pass this tomorrow or the next day. Iran, another country with weird numbers, because the number of new cases seems to be strange relative to the number of total cases. I don't know if I don't know. It just looks strange. Maybe I'm just skeptical. Turkey, putting in some big numbers, moving up the list very quickly. Turkey will pass the China number also, probably in a week. I mean, looks like, what's this look like, 10%, 11% day over day? So maybe 12, whatever that is. So, yeah, I'd say by next week, Turkey's looking at 90 to 100,000. Anything else interesting? Russia has big numbers today. It looks like there's an outbreak in Russia. And I've been wanting to keep an eye on Japan, but I don't. Japan, maybe, I hear there's no lockdown in Japan, but maybe they just did a whole bunch of testing like South Korea did, and they find the people and isolate them. So, yeah. All right, those are the numbers for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and share if you enjoyed it. And please stay safe and stay home. And I'll see you again tomorrow night.